Your Say is a show dedicated to give way to your say on current events. Our show documents events, sheds light on the perspectives of international figures on them, and gives the regular person, wherever they are, a platform to speak their opinion. Today on Your Say, we'll be discussing the latest developments on the economic and political fronts in Egypt. President Mohamed Morsi and the state prosecutor Abdelmajid Mahmoud agreed that Mahmoud would stay on his post, ending a crisis over his refusal to quit after being dismissed. Morsi sealed the agreement with Mahmoud after their meeting at the presidential palace. The president held a 5-hour meeting with the Higher Judicial Council, which was presided over by Councillor Mahmoud Mikki. For his part, Council Ahmed El-Zind, head of the Judges Club, expressed his content over the return of the legitimacy. He also suggested that this day, which he described as historic, would be a judiciary day that represents will, courage and insistence. El-Zind congratulated the Egyptian people, including all judges, lawyer parties and institutions. Earlier last week, the head of the state fired Mahmoud and appointed him Cairo's envoy to the Vatican. But the state prosecutor refused to stand down, saying that he would remain in his post, adding that a judicial body cannot be dismissed by an executive authority according to the law. The Egyptian president tried to remove the state prosecutor after the acquittal of former regime officials on the trial of a deadly attack on the protesters during the 2011 uprising that led to the ouster of former President Hosni Mubarak. The verdicts triggered protests which culminated on Friday, the 12th of October, when supporters of Morsi clashed with his opponents in Cairo's Tahrir Square, in which up to 148 people were injured. Activists who played a central role in last year's anti-Mubarak protest said that Mahmoud was responsible for weak evidence provided by the prosecution in the case and is an old regime loyalist. Morsi had pledged to retry Mubarak and his senior officials for their roles in the killing of the peaceful protesters during the revolution, amid mounting criticism that the trials had been bungled by the state prosecutor's office. Protesters pro and anti-brotherhood violently clashed on Friday, October, with the acquittal of the former officials in the Battle of the Camel trial. This prompted the decision to remove the prosecutor general. The decision to do so was found to be unconstitutional. A judicial source announced that the public prosecution has taken legal procedure to appeal against the court ruling in the acquittal of the former regime officials in the Battle of the Camel. Up to 24 defendants were accused of inciting violence in the incidents which took place on the 2nd and 3rd of February 2011 before the collapse of the former regime, which is known as the Camel of the Battle. The prosecution said it will use new information and evidence that could be provided by the new fact-finding mission ordered to be formed by the Egyptian President Dr. Mohamed Morsi. The defendants include former Parliament Speaker Dr. Ahmed Fathi Srour, head of the Shura Council Safwat al-Sharif, former Administrative Secretary of the National Democratic Party Maged al-Sherbini, former Minister of Military Industries Mohammed al-Ghamrawi, former Secretary General of the NDP Mohammed Abu al-Ainin, Councillor Murtada Mansour, and former Minister of Labour and Immigration Aisha Abdelhadi. Meanwhile, a judicial source stated that the General Prosecution had not investigated the Camel Battle incidents, but instead were investigated by councillor deputies by Cairo Appeal Court, who in turn referred the case to the Criminal Court. President Mohamed Morsi and Minister of Defense Lieutenant General Abdel Fattah al-Sisi witnessed practical military demonstrations by the Third Army on crossing the Suez Canal. The demonstration comes within the framework of the annual military exercises scheduled for Egyptian Army, coinciding and celebrations marking the 39th anniversary of the 6th of October victory. In his speech at the end of the demo, President Morsi praised the distinguished performance of the Egyptian military personnel. He said that Egypt is highly proud of the Egyptian army, which was able to achieve the 1973 victory. In a press conference held last week, the head of the founding Constitutional Committee, Dr. Mohammed al-Biltagi, said that the Dialogue and Interaction Committee has been listening to various levels of society for 3 months and since it started working to make the initial draft of the new Egyptian constitution. Ahmed Nader has the story.
The Constitutional Assembly held a press conference on Wednesday in a bid to start the expanded social dialogue and discuss the Constitution's primary draft. Member of the Assembly and head of the Suggestions and Social Dialogues Committee, Dr. Mohammed al-Biltagi, gathered with the heads of the Rights and Freedoms Committee, the Censoring Apparatuses Committee, the Ruling System Committee, and the State's Main Systems Committee to discuss the Constitution's draft. Today we launched the Know Your Constitution campaign. We also held a primary draft for the Constitution, which gives the opportunity for every Egyptian to amend various articles and add new ones to be reviewed again by the Assembly to reach a final shape for the Constitution. It is the perfect time to be positive.
ده الوقت المثالي للإيجابية من كل المواطنين المصريين.
Former member of the parliament also addressed the problems and disagreements which faced the Constitutional Assembly in a whole in the past few months.
يعني ما كان يقال بأنه مسائل تفجيرية وستصدر أزمات لداخل الجمعية التأسيسية.
We managed to solve all the problems that we have faced during our sessions in the Constitutional Assembly regarding the second and third articles, the role of Al-Azhar and the boundaries of the Islamic law. We reached a type of conformity about them. However, there is a number of minor details that we still have to iron out regarding judicial authorities, local councils, the Shura Council, and the military-civil ties. We all need to work for our country at this time in history.
ليس أزمة ولكن طبيعة المرحلة تقتضي أن يدور هذا الحوار وصولا المصلحة فين مش مين عاوز إيه.
At the end of the conference, Dr. Mohammed al-Biltagi asked political parties and coalitions to take positive stance regarding the Constitution's first draft after the revolution. Ahmed Nader for Nile International.
Minister of Endowment Dr. Talat Afifi called for amending the second article in the draft constitution, which stipulates that the principles of Islamic jurisdiction is the basic source of legislation. Afifi called for deleting the term principles of Islamic jurisdiction and rephrasing the article to be that Islamic jurisdiction be the basic source of legislation to avoid ambiguity. Afifi also said that he supported that the article on gender equality bear a phrase stipulating that Islamic jurisdiction be heeded with regards to these issues. Preparing for the January 25th celebrations, Prime Minister Dr. Hisham Qandil held a meeting with the governors of Cairo, Dr. Osama Kamel, and a number of ministers to discuss all related issues, projects and plans. After their meeting, the governor of Cairo, Dr. Osama Kamel, said that a special plan to develop and promote Tahrir Square in a touristic way has been discussed, beside a special proposal to convert Mujamma al-Tahrir Services building to be a hotel. He added that the plan aims at saving Tahrir Square forever as an eternal symbol, but in a unique and attractive touristic way. Meanwhile, Minister of Culture Dr. Muhammad Sabir said that there are current preparations made by the Ministries of Culture and Tourism to make special celebrations in major squares in other governorates and cities like Alexandria, Suez and Tanta. Last week, the Cairo Criminal Court adjourned to November the 18th the trial of former Prime Minister Ahmed Shafiq, the sons of former President Mohammed Hosni Mubarak, Ala and Gamal, as well as former officials in the Ministry of Civil Aviation. The defendants are accused of illegal profiteering and stealing public funds in the case commonly known as the pilot's land, in which they are implicated of illegally selling a land owned by the Pilot Association in Ismailia to the sons of the ousted president. This trial was adjourned to give the public prosecution time to form a technical committee from the employees of the Notary Public and Ministry of Housing to end the procedures of giving back 2 pieces of land to the pilot association. Strangling one of the world's great sea routes, the Suez Canal corridor is set to become a bridge connecting Africa with Asia if a grand plan by Egypt's new government is taken to be a plan and to be implied. The President of Egypt administration is reviving and expanding a series of projects initiated in the late 1990s under former President Hosni Mubarak to turn the banks of the Suez Canal into world trading and industrial center, hoping it will earn billions of dollars and address a growing unemployment crisis. The plan aims to transform the corridor along the 100-mile length of the canal from an area mostly flat, empty desert into a major world economic zone. The waterway, the main route for the transport of cargo between Asia and Europe, is a vital source of revenue for Egypt. However, Egyptian planners believe a lack of vision and poor administration have prevented the country from maximizing its location at the crossroads of the 2 continents, something they wish to address by expanding transit facilities and slashing red tape for investors. Improving domestic grains output will help to mitigate recent hikes in grain prices on the global market. Egypt, the world's biggest importer of wheat, is importing slightly less grains in 2012-2013 than in the previous year, which is likely to keep food prices inflation on check. Sahar Al-Talawi reports.
The increase in wheat production was attributed to availability of improved varieties, favorable weather conditions, and increased government prices. The 2012 winter crop harvest in Egypt has been concluded. The latest estimates indicate an above-average production of 8.7 million tons of wheat.
In Egypt and all the world. The title of project is in vivo and in vitro production of tolerant wheat to environmental stress. This project is divided to 3 stages. One stage, how you can increases the yield and its component of wheat in Egypt.
Globally, wheat is the leading